Mag Big Keron, and welcome to the world that was. My name is Darius, and today we'll be heading to the Adriatic coast and taking a look at a very simple pressed fig cake, known today as Dalmatian or Croatian smokvenjak. Probably pronounced entirely wrong, but still. Dried fruit turned into pressed cakes was a very common way of storing figs, dates, and other high-sugar, low-moisture goods in antiquity, like you can see with mursu from Akkadian society. This recipe is based on early Greek accounts of Illyrian food, so take this with a grain of salt. In any case, let's take a look at the world that was. To begin with, place your dried almonds into a mortar and pestle. You won't need to peel, blanch, or cook these, but you can if you want. In contrast to my other fruit and nut-based recipes, we need to grind this into a very fine meal. Grind this until it looks like fine sand granules. You could just as easily use a food processor if you want this to be much easier on your hands. When it's done, go put this into a bowl for later. Now we need to deal with our figs. When you're cutting your figs, try and remove the stems like I'm doing here. You don't have to do this, but they just don't have a very nice texture when you're eating them. For aesthetic purposes, I'm going to be finely chopping these before I mash them, so it's a bit easier. It's unlikely to be what ancient Dalmatian people did, but then again, they didn't have to make things look good for YouTube. In any case, chop your figs into quarters and mince these in your mortar and pestle, or a food processor if you have one. We need to mash this into a very smooth, very fine paste. Grab a few sprigs of fresh fennel and finely chop these. Fennel was known to the Greco-Roman world for centuries and is even referenced in Mycenaean Linear B from Bronze Age Greece. As such, it would likely have been used to flavour things like these. Fresh fennel fronds have a very licoricey taste and therefore can be quite bitter and not everyone's cup of tea, but the taste will mellow out quite a bit whenever we slowly bake this. You can add more or less than I'm using here. Much like my mursu, we'll need to knead this together like a bread dough. Do this by tossing your fig paste, your almonds, and your fennel into a bowl, and get to kneading. Fold and press down on your mixture repeatedly. If it's very dry and not really sticking together, you can add a little splash of water, but no more than a quarter of a cup, just to help it along. Try and work the water through the mix before you add more. We don't want to turn this into a soup. When your fig cake is somewhat cohesive, try and form it into one of two shapes, either a long log-shaped cake or a flat round cake. Either one works grand enough, but try and keep whichever shape you make roughly the same thickness, so it cooks evenly. I'm making this one into a kind of squared log, as you can see me doing on screen. When it's been formed, place this into the middle of an oven preheated to about 80 degrees Celsius or 175 degrees Fahrenheit for about 40 to 45 minutes. This is just to simulate the heat of the sun, as these would likely have been left out on stones to bake during the day. Needless to say, an oven is much faster and far more hygienic than leaving it outside in the sun. In any case, let this bake away for a best part of an hour. Whenever it's done, take it out of the oven and leave it be until it cools. Slice this thinly if you've made it into a log like I have, and serve up. You can wrap this in baking paper for storage. The finished cake is very sweet with a lovely texture thanks to the seeds of the figs. The fennel included in the cake really offsets the sweetness of the figs and adds a nice bittersweet flavour profile to it. Dalmatia is a region of modern-day Croatia, but is named after the Roman province of Dalmatia. Dalmatia was half of Illyria, which is a Greek word for the Adriatic coast region. These cakes would likely have been stored for several months at a time and would have been edible for up to a year. The modern parallel of this cake is smokvenjak, which is eaten today in Croatia. The main difference between this ancient dish and the modern one is that schnapps or brandy is added to the mix and that it's eaten alongside cheese and wine, which, coincidentally, this pairs nicely with. In any case, I hope you all enjoyed this look at the world that was. If you liked what you saw, please consider leaving a like on this video or possibly even subscribing to my channel for some more ancient recipes.